Yes, I think
Okay, we're
we should.
starting it again.
I forgot we were actually starting the podcast for a second.
I wasn't ready.
I wasn't ready. I was like, I don't even know how to introduce myself.
All right, let's take a collective breath together,
yeah.
okay? 1, 2, 3.
All right.
How do you feel after that?
Like I don't know what to say. I'm just here. I'm just living at this moment. I'm just waiting to receive whatever comes my way. Pretty much.
That's it. That's what we're doing here today.
That's what it is.
That's what we're doing here today. So while we're doing that, I'd like to welcome you to the podcast.
Thank you.
Welcome to Soul Party, Mrs. Ellie Godfrey.
Thank you, Selena. I'm very stoked to be here.
Guys, you might recognize her from season 1 of Sunny with a Shot of Sarcasm. And if you don't, highly recommend that episode, which was all about solo traveling and traveling for free and finding your flow in travel. It was an amazing episode. But now we're here today, a year later. I know where I'm going to start this episode. I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh, God.
Ellie, when do you feel like your soul is having a party?
Whoa, is that the question of the podcast?
It's the question of the podcast. I want to
that.
know what makes you feel. I know what makes me feel like my soul's having a party. What makes you feel like your soul is having a party?
Yeah, soul party. That's when I feel super connected to myself. Super grounded in who I am and like really connected to my intuition and really canceling out all of the noise around me and feeling like, yeah, really connected to my purpose. And what is my purpose? Like, that's a whole discussion in itself. And I feel like a lot of people are starting to question now, like, what is my purpose? And people are wanting to live more purposeful lives. And that can be a big question. Like, what is your purpose? That's like an intimidating question for some people. But actually, and it was intimidating for me too for a while, because I was like, oh, that's a big question, you know, like, I don't know what the one word statement, the one word answer.
Who am I?
But actually it can be super simple. Like, what is your purpose? My purpose, which I'm still sort of, you know, trying to fully figure out the whole answer, but it's really just to raise the vibration of wherever I am, who I am, the people around me, the collective, just everything, like just raising my frequency and the vibration around me. And yeah, that's what I'm going to say to that soul party answer.
That's a beautiful answer. And I relate a lot to, you know, discovering your purpose and what that is. For a long time, I didn't even know if I had a purpose. So I was like, what is my purpose? Like, I don't have a talent. I'm not good at playing sports. I don't think that I'm talented in singing or making music. And I kept defaulting to what is my talent. And then I realized that there are things that just come really naturally to me. So my natural maybe gifts or things that I really enjoy, when time just disappears and fizzles away, and I just feel, like you said, really connected, that for me is purpose. And I think a lot of people get confused with what you're doing. They think that the doing is the purpose. So you might look at me and you might think, Selena, like, your podcast is your purpose. No, my podcast is not my purpose. My podcast is a medium that I can deliver. It's a way that I can transmit my message. My message is my purpose. So I know for myself that my purpose is definitely to teach, to lead, to go first, gather that information of what I've learned and share it with others. I feel like that is a big part of my purpose. Now, it doesn't mean that I identify with that. It doesn't mean that that is who Selena is. It just means that that's where I'm going. That's where I feel tapped in. That's where I feel connected to myself. So that for me is purposeful. It's like time disappears. You're in the zone. You're in an exchange with a person. You're sharing something that's really helped you. Like that for me, it's just so purposeful. I get excited about it. So tap into what's exciting for you. What's exciting for you, and maybe what do people notice in you that you're good at? A lot of people notice that I'm good at communicating, or I'm good at speaking, or I'm good at explaining things in an understandable way, or like breaking it down. So that has to do with teaching, right? It doesn't mean I'm going to be a teacher at a school,
right?
But I can weave in the teaching aspects into my own unique medium, which right now is my podcast,
right?
Which for you is your videos.
Yeah.
You're an amazing video editor. So it doesn't mean that making videos is your purpose, but it's the medium in which you share your message.
I think a big thing is that when people trying to figure out their purpose, that's their problem. They're trying to figure it out. When you try so hard to figure it out, you're actually going in the opposite direction of figuring it out. Part of like discovering your soul's purpose is literally just being. And what does being mean? It's like, it's less on what you're doing and it's more on who you're being. And being is being really grounded in your heart. So operating from a place of your heart, not your head. Your head is going to tell, is literally all the voices of people telling you what you think you should be doing, comparing yourself to other people and the path that they're on or the time limit that just all the outside noise. That's when you're operating from your head. But when you're operating from your heart, that's when like your intuition and higher self kicks in, because that's what's unique to you, and your heart will literally lead you. It will guide you to discovering what that looks like further. And so that's why it's so important to like create practices and do things that really allow you to cancel out that outside noise of these outside voices and connect to your heart and listen to it more deeply, you know?
How do you think that you do that? How do you connect to your heart? How do you decipher the difference between being in your head and being in your heart?
That's a good question.
And for you, not for everybody, but for you.
Yeah.
When do you tap into that?
For me, I'm very sensitive to other people's energy. And for me, I've really been able to connect to my heart by just like my alone time, my solo journeys. Like I set off from a young age just really to travel the world and really listen to my heart of that first kind of calling to just explore something outside of the bubble I was living in. And through that, I like completely removed myself from where I grew up and the community I was surrounded by, and just entered this world with fresh eyes and discovered myself through a completely different lens, and the world really mirrored back at me who I was. And that it's a whole journey, and it's a process, self-discovery and really connecting to yourself. But for me, my alone time is like integral to me to connect back to myself. And that might not be for everybody, but for me, like alone time is where I really come home to myself.
We're a bunch of extroverts finding out about introversion, and we're like, have you guys heard about this new thing? It's called alone time, and it's amazing. It's brand new. We're like, never been done before. Wow.
But yes, it's so true, because Selena and I are complete extroverts. But when I say alone time, I don't just mean complete isolation of alone time. That is integral as well. But alone time for me is also doing things on my own in the world where I don't know anybody, because that's where you can really have mirrors back to you. Like you kind of, like you're showing up in the world, not knowing anybody, engaging with people, and they like are almost a reflection of the energy that you're kind of radiating to them, you know? So I really see my mirrors back at like people who I don't know. They kind of reflect back at me how I'm showing up and stuff as well too. And so it's fun. That's for me personally what I like to do. I've been going to things by myself, doing things by myself all the time, and that's where I've really found myself as well. That's not the case for most people, but yeah, just alone, doing things alone and being alone.
I find that I've learned so much about myself from doing things on my own. Like, I completely agree with you. And if you want to, like, bridging it back to, like, your purpose or even just your talents or your gifts or just things that stand out that make you unique and different, if you are surrounding yourself with the same people all the time,
Yes.
this is going to sound so blunt, but you're old news. You are old news. So no one is going to be looking at you and being like, giving you the same compliment that they've been giving you since you knew them when you were 10 years old.
Right.
They're like, yeah, that's just Selena being Selena. That's just Ellie being Ellie. Like, we know Ellie, we know Selena. That's just them. And I always thought that who I was normal by definition of in relation to my friends and to my family. It was just normal. It was me being me. But once I stepped outside of that, and traveling, big part of that, these are completely like new characters that like completely different cultures, all the things. And then even stepping into different communities in your hometown as well. The things that people recognize things with you people recognize things in you like this. You can have a conversation with a person, they're like, wow, you're such a good listener. Wow, you're so enthusiastic. You're so effervescent. You're so, like,
wow, you're really good at this thing.
Yeah, you're good. And these are, like, small things that when you're hearing that, when people are pulling that out of you, mirroring it to you, and they're pulling it out of you and showing you that, it really shines a light on things that come natural to you that you might not have recognized before. So I think that's helped me so much this past year, like just being in different communities, being in different friend groups, around different, like, brand new personalities, brand new people, people pulling those things out of me. I'm like, oh, wow, like maybe I am good at that. And that has helped me look at my purpose and see what I'm excited about, what comes naturally to me, how does this all weave together into what brings me purpose, what is purposeful work for me. So I would highly recommend, if you feel a little bit confused, surround yourself, like, get out there, surround yourself with different people, different communities, take up a new hobby, go talk to people in the line at Tim Hortons, like, whatever it is, you will receive that. You will receive it back to you, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself. Let's look at it in a different light. Instead of looking at it as uncomfortable, let's just, like, open our eyes up, put the phones away, just strike up some conversations, observe, and just do the uncomfortable thing. Because when you train that muscle, that fear muscle,
the trust
that
muscle,
uncomfortability muscle, like, the more you do things like that, it's gonna just become natural to you. And then you get, like, all these opportunities, all these amazing relationships are gonna spiral out of that. And that's how you weave your way through this world, is just by, like, trying.
There's three things: embracing the unknown, it's learning how to live in the moment, and then through that you can then explore life's limitless possibilities. And embracing the unknown comes with, like, really letting go of the control. That's like, you can't plan things anymore. It's allowing you to just step into the unknown and, like, be open to whatever it has to show you, you know? And that's the scariest part. It's like not knowing, but actually it's, if you change your mindset, it can actually be super exciting, because you're like, wow, I don't know what's to come, but this is so exciting, because, like, that's how life works. Like, we can't plan things. And how often has your plan gone to plan? Learning to embrace the uncomfortable parts and actually it becomes very comfortable, because there's growth in the discomfort. And then obviously living in the present moment, that's where I talked about connecting to the heart and operating from a place of that's where you can really connect to your intuition and let it guide you to kind of just find your flow in the world and, like, see where it can take you. And that's where you can really learn to trust the process a lot more. And then obviously exploring life's limitless possibilities. That's where you really are like open to receiving, and you realize, wow, that's when you can really create the life of your dreams and create your own reality and realize you are the creator of your reality. You literally, that's where you reclaim your power, and you're like, wow, I was limiting myself so much to life before, but really, like, I can dream of anything and I can create that. Like, I can do that, you know?
It takes courage.
It takes courage.
It takes courage. That's a big
huge,
theme.
huge
And
word.
I like what you're talking about as well, like the heart, the head. This is how I've experienced the heart and the head, okay? So when I am in tune with making decisions or tuning into my heart, it comes from a place of courage. There's no perceived limitations when I come from my heart. So that's when the mind kicks in.
Right.
The mind is the limitations, is the what are people gonna think, is the am I even smart enough to do that? How do I navigate this? That's when the head comes in. The heart is like, none of that even exists. No possibilities, no play-by-play scenarios, no what are other people gonna think, judgment, all questioning yourself. That doesn't come in for the heart. For the heart is when I feel the why. Going back to the purpose, it's the drawing, it's this feels in alignment with me. And now that's a term that it's kind of hard to explain what alignment feels like, but it just feels like the next natural step. It's just a pull. It just feels effortless, like you're swaying, like an ocean. It's just this, it's like a natural pull for you. That's what I think tuning into the heart is. And I can use an example of this podcast that I was working through. So when me and you were talking this week, and we were like, what do we want to talk about on this episode? There are so many
we didn't know. There's
things.
too many things.
Our life is a podcast.
Yeah, literally.
Our life is a podcast together. We're voice noting. We're like, save the voice notes, put it in an episode.
We were on a call last night. We're like, hey, we need to stop talking.
We need to cut this off. And we were just like, what do we want to talk about? And I realized that there was something that I was avoiding talking about. And it was the thing that I was working through the most recently. And what I was working through this week, it hasn't come to me in a very long time. I was like, I thought I already worked through this. But doubt came in the room. Fear came in the room, questioning myself, questioning what am I even doing in relation to this podcast? Yes, the thing that you are listening to right now. And why did I not want to talk about this? I'm like, Selena, why would you talk about that? Like, you want people to listen to your podcast, but yet you were doubting yourself. Like, how are people even going to believe in listening to your podcast if you're admitting that you were doubting your podcast? That was the mentality. That was coming from the head. Right? And I had to work through that the past few days. And I'm like, okay, where is this doubt coming from? Where is the questioning coming from? And I'll tell you where it was coming from. It was because I was talking to other people about podcasts, and I made a big mistake by asking people their opinions of like, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And it just wasn't anything that was authentic to me. It was just like very general, like stat type questions. And I'm asking people and I'm listening to their advice. And of course, they're coming from their heart. They're just like, yeah, this is like my honest advice, whatever. And it got to my head. And I started thinking, well, if my podcast is not like that, then people aren't going to listen. Or what's the point of even doing this? If I don't have this component, what's the point? If I don't have the video, if I don't have the good audio, if I don't have this, that, like all the things that make a successful podcast, if I don't have that right now, then what is the point of starting? What is the point of hitting record on season 2? Throw it in the garbage. Like it was such a battle for me, and I was avoiding it. It was so pressing, and I felt like if I came to this episode and I talked about anything, like if we tried to talk about a completely unrelated topic to purpose or where we're going into right now with like doubt and questioning your purpose and tapping into your heart and tapping into your mind and navigating all of this, if we talked about anything else, I feel like it would have been very ingenuine to what I'm going through right now. And that's the decision that I made. I said, wait a second, Selena, you want to avoid this. You want to avoid this topic. You're trying to think of different topics that you and Ellie can talk about. We're trying to brainstorm completely different topics that we can talk about, that we're passionate about talking about. But this is what was pressing, and I'm happy that I'm able to talk about it right now with you, because it's really real.
Yeah.
And this is a part of navigating your purpose. And that was my mind talking. And I had to get like really think about what's the fear, what's the doubt, all those things. And I came back into my heart and I thought about, well, what's the why? Who is this for? Mm-hmm. I have a message. I am trying to create conversations about living unconventional, purpose-driven lives. Mm-hmm. I am trying to touch the lives of the Joe Schmoes off the street. I am not trying to interview the top celebrities of the world, because my purpose is for you to feel like who I am speaking with is just a hand's reach away from you.
Yes.
You feel like you can touch it. So if me and Ellie are talking right now and we're talking about purpose and tapping into your heart, I want you to feel like, wow, those are two Joe Schmoes off the street in a room, regular people that are talking about something that I feel is so within reach to me. Not something that feels like it's miles away. I want you to see yourself within us. And that's why we have these conversations that we're having.
Yeah, I think it's like authenticity is so important these days, because it's like we've been wearing so many masks for so long, and I feel like it's time to rip all those fucking masks off and just get fucking real. Like that's what we need. That's what
vulnerability.
That's the real thing, you know? People want real because that's how it's more relatable to them, and that's how they can really see like, oh, everyone's just human at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. We're all just fucking human. No one's got it fucking... Oh, sorry, I'm swearing a lot. No one's got it all
She's
figured.
passionate. She's passionate.
It's passion, not profanity. No one's got it all figured out, really, you know? And, yeah, I love that you're keeping it real, and that's what we... That's how you genuinely attract the right people into your life, by just being real. If you're putting on a mask, then you're gonna attract also inauthentic to you. Performance, yes.
That's another big theme. Performance, like noticing the difference between when you are navigating your purpose. You can be in your purpose, but you can be performing what you think that purpose entails. You could be performing it. And when you're performing it, you're essentially going based off of what somebody else you saw, their version of it. And then that's not authentic to you. So tying into authenticity and performance, like it's all really connected. That's all brain. That's all head, right? Like the performance aspect of it. And I noticed a difference between myself season 1. I felt, looking back on it, I wasn't conscious of it in the moment, but looking back on it, I do feel like I was performing what I thought a comedy host was. And that was very much me back then. That was very much me. And like, celebration, like I'm so proud of all the conversations, the juicy conversations I had with people. They were amazing. But when if I listened to it, I realized that I was performing what I thought a comedy host was by definition of other comedy hosts. And all the growth that I've done this past year, it's taken me a while to hit record on this podcast, but I feel like this is all heart. And I hope that's received on the other end, is that showing up to every episode is fully from the heart. So I don't have to perform anything right now.
No,
there is no performance.
Literally just gotta show up. And
Yeah.
I think that's what, you know, is so magnetic, is people can feel when you're being your just authentic self.
Yeah.
You know? And that is so attractive, that energy in itself. And you don't have to try so hard, because you're just being. You're not trying, you're being. And that's just like such a beautiful way of life. Like if you think about it, I like to, and this can be a lot for when you're trying to figure out anything, really. The more you try, the less the wave takes you. And like I don't know if you've ever surfed before, but if you think of it as
Unsuccessfully.
well, if you've ever caught a wave,
I have it.
Okay. Well, for the people listening,
No, I actually have. I have.
you have.
I know, yes.
You know the feeling.
Yes.
Okay. Well, surfing can be hard when you're first trying out, and it's like when you try so hard to catch that wave, you're getting so in your head. You're waiting for the perfect wave. You're trying, you're paddling, you're like, and you're never going to catch that wave. But if you're being present in the water, connected to your senses, feeling the sun kissing your face, on your skin, being in the water with the waves floating by, then all of a sudden a wave just comes and it just takes you. You didn't even have to try. It just comes, takes you, and you're just riding the wave and you didn't even realize it, because that comes from you just being present. And so yeah, I think we're entering a time right now where a lot of people are starting to want to live more purpose-driven lives. And a lot of people are confused, and they're feeling lost even more so than before, because they're like, okay, I don't want to live the typical conventional life, and I'm seeking for more meaning and purpose in my life. But that's like a whole journey that you kind of have to go down, and it's a beautiful journey, but it's also, there can be very confusing, hard times where you feel lost a lot of the time.
There's going to be ego deaths.
There's going to be a lot of ego death, a lot of questioning who the hell am I? And imposter syndrome's going to arise. A lot of self-doubt, especially when you're trying to step into doing something that's more purpose-driven, like starting something that you feel is more like, starting a podcast, starting a YouTube channel, maybe you want to be a coach or a guide, or opening your own business in something,
The non-linear life.
Yes.
The non-linear life. And I feel like the linear life feels very safe and very guaranteed for people. It's like, this has been tested and we know the steps. It's like beep, boop, 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 boop. But to your point, when you're navigating a more purpose-driven life, it's not as safe. It's not as guaranteed. It's safe when you trust, but you have to build up
the trust
you have
muscle.
To build the trust muscle.
And how do you build the trust muscle? By just doing it and leaning into that discomfort. I think when you experience all those, let's say, I'm not going to call them negative feelings, because it's just what it is. Self-doubt, imposter syndrome, fear of rejection, fear of failure, all the different things that come up. That is actually part of the journey. So the more we learn to embrace those things instead of fear them, like, resistance is naturally part of the process. It's naturally going to come up. So the more we resist it, the more it persists, But if we just learn to accept it, the resistance is our smaller self who's scared. It doesn't know how important this is to you yet. So you have to really lean into that discomfort and embrace it and acknowledge it. The smaller self, all it wants is to be acknowledged and just feel loved and seen. And then once you do that and you say, listen, yep, I've acknowledged this within myself. This is it, is part of the process. Then you can actually start to take a step forward in the right direction. And naturally it's going to want to push back again and hide and go into its little box again. I'm scared. But the more you with that muscle to just, massage it a little bit deeper.
Get into that muscle. I have a really good example of how I practice this.
Okay.
So you can practice facing that resistance, facing those fears, those doubts. You can practice them in unrelated ways. Okay? And this is how I've practiced it, in an unrelated way. And to prove it to myself and take that same energy to the real thing. So, othership, ice bath.
Okay.
Okay. ice bath. 2 degrees. There's the 2-degree ice bath. Other ship, it's like this sauna ice bath experience. Cold plunge. So Wim Hof style, all the things. And you are about to get into this cold bath. There's ice in it. It's 2 degrees. And you're standing there. You take a few breaths. And that is the moment where I think I'm like, nah, not for me today. Not for me today. And then I'm like, no, you can do this. You're going to prove it to yourself. And then I get in. And the first 10 seconds, I'm like, not for me today. I'm going to get up early.
Yeah.
And then I get to the 30-second mark. I'm like, wow, like I'm doing it. Like, okay.
Like, I'm in here.
And that's when I start having the dialogue around the 1 minute mark. I'm like, no, Selena, you're not getting up.
Yeah.
You're going to prove it to yourself, because if you can do this most uncomfortable body experience, if you can do this, you can do anything. And I get out, they say the 2 minutes, and sorry, when I tell myself that, when I say you can do anything, then I lean in. I'm like, I lean back, I retract. I'm like, I'm in a hot tub. I'm in my backyard.
Yeah, and then it's actually pretty legit.
And I'm just like, my brain changes. The way that I see it changes. And then the 2 minute mark hits, and they're like, Kate, you guys can get up. I get up, I get out, and I'm like, wow, that wasn't so bad. And every time I go back to it, it gets easier and easier, because I proved it to myself last time.
Exactly.
I'm like, 2 minutes, a breeze. I can do this again. And even though when I'm in it, the fear comes up again, and I start talking myself out of it. I'm in there 30 seconds. I'm like, nah, not today, not today. You still go it's not going to disappear. I think that's what's important. I think this actually ties everything in together. Me cold plunging, that 30-second mark, that 1 minute mark of doubt of just get up, this isn't worth it, why am I torturing myself, what is this all for? Passing that is the same as what I dealt with this week. Is the same as me just showing myself that if I can do this, I could do it again and again, but the doubts are not going to disappear. Okay, the perceived obstacles, the fears, the judgment, all this stuff, it's not going to completely disappear. Just because you're tapping into your purpose, it does not dissipate. It just means that your heart takes over. It means that your heart leads, because you're in your purpose. The doubt doesn't disappear. You just get stronger. That's my point.
That was a great point, Selena. Thank you for sharing that
I'm
with
like
us.
making the connections. I'm like, D, red tape, B, cold plunge. Yes.
It's so true. So true.
And you prove it to yourself. And if you prove it to yourself, like, that's an easy, not easy. It's an unrelated way. And whenever a thought comes up, like, this is how you could practice this, okay? Not in a cold plunge way. You don't want to don't do the cold plunge. But if there's a thought that comes up for you, you're going to be aware of it right away. You're like, nah, I don't think it's a good idea. Like, I'm not going to do that. Or no, like, I'm just going to send an email. Like, I don't want to book a meeting with them. Or like, whatever the fear is for you, it's different for each person. But if there's something that you don't want to do, explore that. Really explore that. What is this showing me? What is this teaching me? What is the resistance? What is this all about? And then practice it in those small ways. In the, you know what? I don't want to go on a video call with this person for this meeting that I have. I just want to call them on the phone because, like, I don't know, it's awkward, or I just want to email them because, like, I don't know, like, I don't really feel like, just do it. Like, do that small little thing and prove it to yourself. That's what I do. I'm very aware. When I'm like, oh, fear is coming up, I'm going to do it anyways. That's what I do. Because those are small ways you could prove it to yourself. And then you take that same energy to the podcast. And I moved through that doubt and that fear and all that stuff in 2 days. That could have made me throw everything in the garbage.
I also really want to just bring up, like, the self-doubt thing again, and like comparing yourself to others, because a lot of people right now, they're like, I really want to make an impact in this world. I really want my purpose is really, I want to really help, you know, and I want to do that in my own unique way, but everyone else is doing that, you know, everyone else is doing it. And here's where the advice of like, do it anyway, because everyone's purpose is going to look different to them because you are so unique. All of us, the whole world could be in their purpose, and no one's going to do the same thing twice because everyone on this world, in this planet, is so unique and different. Everyone has such a unique and different background, but we're raised in a world where we're supposed to be in this system where everyone's supposed to live the same fucking life, you know, and do the same things that, like, it doesn't make sense. So that's why it's like, even when we seek advice from other people, like someone who you actually really trust and could give you great advice, it still might not be the advice for you because everyone operates so differently. So it's really a journey of getting to know how you operate differently, what makes you unique, and really feeling connected to your distilled essence. And what do I mean by distilled essence? This is a beautiful, like, metaphor, term that I discovered. And what your distilled essence is essentially, think about you're creating a nice bottle of wine. Okay? How do you make that wine? You gotta get
my dad.
You gotta get these.
he sets up shop in the garage and makes vino.
Okay, so this is what your
grapes.
dad probably does. He lets those grapes mature.
Yeah.
Gets nice and ripe and mature. Okay? Then he extracts the essence of that grape. So finely presses those grapes and extracts that essence of each grape. And you can, it's in order to make this beautiful, unique bottle of wine. And think about it like you. You are your own distilled essence. All your life experiences, all the things, all the events, all the things that you've done up until this point, everything you take an essence, you extract all the stuff out of each experience, and that gets left with you and adds to your own unique distilled essence of who you are. And that's different. That's going to look different to every single person in this whole world. So the way whatever you have to uniquely express in this world, it's your own unique art. It's your own unique way of doing it and being. And your message, maybe it's a similar message to the next person, but the way you portray it and the way you express it is going to be different than everybody else. So just remember that when you're doing it, because that's the one thing that's going to keep you grounded in who you are and what you uniquely have to bring to this world.
That's the heart.
That's your heart.
That's coming from the heart.
Yeah.
This is so great.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, coming from your heart is recognizing within yourself that you are a divine, unique individual that no one else has what you have to offer.
And that doesn't mean to say it's in an egotistical way.
Not at all.
Because it's not. You're not like, I'm better than you. It's, I see you, you're amazing, and I'm amazing.
Yeah, let's celebrate
amazing.
each other.
Yeah.
And let's co-create instead of compete. Let's collaborate and co-create based off of what we both uniquely bring that we're both good at. Let's complement each other instead of compete with another, you know? And that's where we all can help raise each other up. And there's so much space for everyone to flourish and thrive in this world, you know? And that's how we create so much impact, like positive change and impact, and change the narrative of this. Like, let's rewrite the narrative that we've been living, you know?
Yeah, let's lean into that a little bit more because I like the track that you're on. So, starting, right? That's one of the things that comes up when you're starting, when you want to step into your purpose and you want to enter the space or the industry or whatever it is that you're trying to do. That's going to come up for you, the comparison. There's going to be a fear of starting because everybody else is already established in the space. What is the point? What sets me apart? What is the point? And everything that you're saying slashes that. Boom, done. We figured it out. Boom, done. Listen to this part of the podcast. Boom, done. That dissipates. Number 2, you think you have to have it all figured out. I dealt with that this week. I'm like, but the video, but this. Okay, but if I want to do it this way, because I'm comparing myself again. So it's thinking that you have to have it all figured out to start, but rather just flip your brain to, I am starting. I am in the experimenting, I'm in the playful phase. I get to see what works, because if you try to control it, to your point earlier, if you try to control it, it's gonna go in completely different ways, and like that's where the magic happens. If you allow the space, if you give yourself the permission slip of, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna try it this way, and then I'm gonna see what I learn, and then I'm gonna try it this way, and then I'm gonna try it this way. I feel like as humans, our safety, our sense of safety comes from consistency. We're like, I need it to be consistent. I need to spend the time now to figure out my consistent formula
my
that I'm
plan.
gonna copy paste, plan. But it's like that stops us from even starting.
Yeah, it's
and that's the difference
overwhelming.
between the perfectionist and the artist. We've had this
perfectionism,
conversation
oh
before.
my God,
But
yeah.
it's like the perfectionist never starts, and so nothing happens, so they stay at around here. And then the artist, they start and they play and they experiment, and they're open to new possibilities and new ideas, and they see everything as like a new possible way that it can go. And they get further because they started.
100%
So that's another reason to just start. That's
Yes.
another reason.
Oh my God, I was gonna say something and now I forget. But, oh yeah, what I was gonna say is that going off of that is you really just need to, you don't need to worry about the details so much. Just focus on your what and your why. So why you're doing it and what your vision is. Like what do you want to do actually, like start with, let's just say. And then once you have that figured out, the universe literally takes care of the how. And that's the wave, you know, coming back to surfing. Figure out the what, and the universe will just be the wave to take you to figure out the how. How is it going to be so successful? How am I going to do all this? How am I going to set up this thing and this thing and this thing? All the other little details come with it once you are grounded in why you're doing this. And yeah, kind of create that medium or that outlet of like actually just which kickstarts the journey.
Miracles happen once in a while when you believe. Princess Diaries.
Nice.
Have you heard that?
No.
You haven't heard that?
I
Princess Diaries?
haven't watched it in a really long time.
I thought you were gonna join it.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, but yeah, it's like I know
feel
this sounds silly, but miracles can definitely happen, and I feel like I'm a testament to that, you're a testament to that, that any perceived resistance that I've been through where I'm like, this is intense, I need to pull out my formula and start doing calculations of how to figure this out. But when I just trusted and I just said, okay, let's just see what happens. Let's just have patience. Let's just have trust. Let me just see what happens, because something can possibly happen that I would have never even expected. That is beyond anything I could have possibly formulated, calculated, and it's happened. That's all I'm going to say.
And I
happened.
think, you know, once you really exercise that trust muscle, you don't even need to really trust anymore. The trust turns into an inner knowing. It literally turns into an inner knowing. And that's what happens when you're connected to your higher self and intuition. You literally just know everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to happen when it happens. That's trusting the process and letting everything happen in divine timing, where you're not worried about when it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen. So you're letting the universe, that's its job to figure out all the other things, the how. You just need to be grounded in who you are and let it take the reins. You know? And then you know it's going to happen, so you're more patient and grounded in that. You're not getting impatient, being like, okay, well, you know, my purpose isn't going to happen like now. So like
But that's, you know what?
your purpose is a process. It's your life. Why are you trying to rush your purpose, you know?
And that is the difference between the heart and the head.
Yeah.
Because the head thinks, this is such a good way to if you look at yourself and ask yourself these questions after this podcast, during this podcast, you'll see what things in your life, you are going to assess the things you are doing in your life in such a different way from what we're talking about. But a big distinguishing factor is when you are not coming from the heart, then you're coming from the head. And the head wants things to happen now. The head wants it to happen fast, quickly, now. Because the head is kind of a little bit scared. Let me know if you relate to this.
Okay.
The head is a little bit scared that your interest might change. That something is going to change. That you're not actually coming from your heart. Because your heart's work doesn't change. It evolves. It strengthens.
Definitely evolves.
It cycles like this. It's like a spiral. You're like doing a bit of this, then it's this, but it's like the driving force is still the same. Versus when you're coming from your head, when there's a little bit of ego there, you're obsessed with timelines because you're comparing yourself. You're looking at, well, it has to be done like this. It has to be done now. It has to be done this. But like deep down, if you're coming from your heart, you release yourself from the timelines because it's the trust. It's, this is going to happen for me. It cannot possibly not happen for me because this is my soul's purpose. Yeah. I am so aligned with what I'm doing. This is just like, I'm so intrinsically motivated. Like, this is just me. This is an extension of me. This is me doing my soul's work. And there's no rush to that because you really do sit into, I get the pleasure of dedicating the rest of my life to this. So that's where the timelines dissipate. And you will know, when you assess the things that are important to you or that you're doing right now, you will know the difference between, is this soul work? Is this purpose work? Or is this just something that I'm doing because I'm like, thought it was cool, thought it's what other people are doing, thought it was something that can make me money, thought it was like a trend that I should get on, thought it was something that people would think highly of me if I did it. That's where the timelines are. All of those things, all the external, that's where the timelines are. But internal, it's like,
now,
there's no rush.
What I'm feeling like a lot of some people are probably feeling right now is, Selena, this is all great stuff. I love it. But like, girls gotta pay her bills.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's where it's like almost the you know, the starving artist. It's like the spiritual starving artist where it's like when you're on a spiritual journey, for example, or you're trying to seek deeper meaning and you want to really do something that's aligned with your soul, that is hard to generate revenue from when you want to make money from that. So it's like, you know, it's like, I think the deeper question is, what the fuck are you all doing to try to step in, do your creative soul aligned businesses? Because that's a topic that isn't probably talked about enough. Like, people look at all these people doing all these things and la 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 la, but people also aren't talking about like the behind the scenes of like, how are you all supporting yourselves by just doing yoga and being all spiritual and like, or like you know, doing all these creative things that like probably aren't making a lot of money at the beginning, where it's like, yo, I want to detach from these timelines of when I'm gonna start, when the business is gonna start kicking off. But I also need to fucking live my life and pay my bills.
This
you
is
know?
a great point. Yeah.
And like, to be honest, like it's not something I've actually dealt with because I just realized I'd never actually introduced myself. None of you know who I am.
We didn't do that.
No, we didn't. No one knows anything about me. I'm just your friend at this point.
Say your name.
I don't know.
Or did I refer to you as Joe Schmo and myself? Did I introduce myself as Joe Schmo?
I don't even remember.
Did I do that again?
I think we jumped right into it, if I'm going to be honest. We just get so excited.
It's okay. We trust. It'll all make sense.
It'll all make sense. But yeah, I feel like that's something that a lot of people are also struggling with.
Yeah, they're like, how is it possible? How can I do my soul work, but like I'm waiting for the money to come in so I can support the soul work? What would you say to that?
I mean, the thing is like, to even get to a place where you're really on your soul's path and purpose, it takes a lot of inner work, you know? It takes a lot of time where, like, of reflection, a lot of, like, slowing down from what you were just maybe experiencing in your life to really contemplate and go within yourself and ask yourselves the hard questions that most people have been either avoiding their whole lives or are too afraid to really face because it's scary. And you know, if you feel called to be on, if you are on this path already and like, you know, there's so many different phases and steps of the journey, right? For me, I was blessed that I naturally listened to my heart from a young age, and I naturally always just trusted that everything would work out. From a young age, like from 18, I was just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like do this thing, and then I know it's gonna lead me to the next thing, and I know this thing is gonna lead me to the next thing, and I'm not really worried because I know I can support myself by creating unique opportunities around the world. Like, I just always trusted that everything was happening divinely. From a young age, I was very blessed to have that. Obviously, if you're 30 something years old or however old you are, and you're like, yo, time's ticking. Like, that's a different situation. I've never been in that situation before. But I would also, I mean, I think the rules still apply. It's to essentially trust that you are exactly where you need to be right now. And your life, everything that you've done up until this point needed to happen so that you could experience that, take your own unique experiences. And this is where you get to really take a step back, look back on your life, heal a lot of the things that, like, get clear and heal the things within yourself. Because once you do that, that turns into your purpose more. That can really, like, all your experiences are what's going to help people. And because what you learn from your own experiences in your life, it can help other people with their life. And we all have a unique, different purpose. Your purpose doesn't even have to be that complicated. It could literally be starting a pizza shop. You know?
Antonio's Pizza. You
have the best pizza ever that you want to do.
You're passionate about it.
You're passionate about this amazing pizza that's going to light up the whole world of everyone who walks in your shop. Like, that's amazing. That can be your purpose. But like, it's a good question because now, what supports me is I'm a video editor for a very large global company, and I create content for 3 big brands in the outdoor recreation space. I naturally has been a self-produced freelancer ever since I was 20 years old, and like I just kind of did that. I couldn't even call myself a professional. I still don't even think I'm a professional. Because I was just doing what felt right in the moment and what I was just naturally good at. And I didn't question it. I just kind of did it. And then one thing just like led me to another because I was in the flow. I was trusting that everything would just work out. And I think that's kind of how my life has gone. Everything we're saying, I kind of just let the universe figure out the how because I was just kind of on my purpose and my journey of like letting my heart guide me of where it wanted to go. That inner guidance system.
Let's dive into that. So what I want to highlight there that you're kind of pointing out is that making videos is something you were doing before this job.
Yeah.
You were traveling, you were making videos, like very purposeful, very passionate about doing that.
Yeah.
Did you get the job that you're in right now because of your video making? Did you know you were going to be making videos, or did it transition that job?
That's a great question. And I was actually thinking about this the other day. So I literally just had a passion for making videos.
Tell us which
for
company.
myself.
Which company?
Okay, so I work for a company called Bombardier Recreational Products, BRP. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Big company. And I work for the brands Sea-Doo, Ski-Doo, and Lynx. It's 2 famous snowmobile brands and a famous jet ski brand. And I grew up riding those vehicles. Like, I was a very outdoorsy kid. I loved capturing like unique perspectives with my GoPro and drone, and I loved editing from a young age. It was just a natural gift.
She edited her own bat mitzvah.
Yeah, I'm Jewish, and I'm Jewish. I was thinking
She's
that too.
like, Dad, step aside. I'm editing the bat mitzvah video.
Yeah, I edited my own bat mitzvah video, and it was so lit. But it was just like from a young age, I just like loved doing it, and you know, I never even thought of myself still like as a videographer or whatever, but I just kind of started. As I was traveling, I started approaching these companies and was like, hey, I can offer you like these fun little videos for your social media, and you give me like all these free stuff and just support me while I'm traveling in your country and whatever. And so I was able to work with these different small companies just to create a little bit of a resume and like get some experience working with actual companies and other brands. And I did that all when I was 20 years old. And then I created a little portfolio for myself just out of my own like passion projects, essentially, and these little projects that I would create with these companies. And through that, I was able to kind of, when I applied to work for this big company, it wasn't even a job as a content creator. It was as a content coordinator. So I was doing more of like the back end stuff. The manager who hired me, she saw something in my videos and my portfolio. She saw my potential, and she gave me the chance and opportunity to work with them. And through that, I had to prove my value to them and show, like, basically what happened was if they put the job out of like, this is like video editor or whatever, I probably would have doubted myself and never even like, probably wouldn't have been like, oh, I'm not good enough for that or whatever. But what happened was my job when I first started was to work with their contracted editors, and I was supposed to like pitch them what we wanted. And what happened was they were shit. They were so slow. I had to like tell them exactly what I wanted for the video, and I was like, oh my God, you are so bad at this. Like, I can do a way better job. So I told my manager, I was like, just let me do it. Like, I'm so much faster. I can do a way better job. Like, I'm trying to explain to them what I want, and they're not doing a good job. So I ended up taking over and just became the in-house editor and the creative director for all of our projects that we would work on internationally. And that's kind of how I evolved and proved my value within the company. And then naturally, my role evolves. Now I'm not with them full time. I'm a freelancer for them, and I've created a very freedom schedule for myself with them, a very unique position where I can really take the time to focus on my purpose-driven things in my life, and then also work when I need to and just get my monthly deliverables done with them, which has been great, and work on my own passion projects and my own videos more. But yeah, like I could have never planned that. And that all happened because I was doing what I naturally felt called to do, and like seeing the opportunities arise when they did. And the universe aligned everything. And actually, when I got when I applied for this job in the first place, they called me and they're like, hey, can you move to the manager called me and they're like, hey, we need you to move to Montreal. Like, are you okay to do that? It's going to be a full-time contract, blah, blah, blah. I was like, on the phone, I was like, I'm actually going to Costa Rica tomorrow. Doesn't really work for me. Like, I'm not trying to move to Montreal. And I just like told them how it was. But I was like, but if something changes, like, let me know. And they're like, okay. So I went to Costa Rica. I was working for a few companies down there. And then my manager, the manager ends up reaching back out to me like a month and a half later, being like, hey, we haven't filled the position. Are you still interested? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm in Costa Rica still doing this, but if you're open to like working with me and me staying in Toronto and working remotely, then like, let's chat. And they're like, okay. So then we started the interview process, ended up getting hired while I was in Costa Rica, and like the rest is history. So it all happened because I held my boundaries. I didn't conform to what they wanted. I just told them what it was. And I, stood in my worth the whole time and literally let the universe like figure itself out around me. A lot of the time we put ourselves in boxes of like what we're limited to.
The formula.
That's where the formula
comes
in. Or like, oh, I'm not, like, this doesn't work because this is their
X equals
constraints.
Y. Like, D.
But
like
you
that.
can really like rewrite whatever kind of thing you want. We're in a beautiful era where we really can change things now because things are changing. Like, we're rewriting this whole new the generational way of being is transforming. The paradigm is shifting. We're entering this new age of being. And so, yeah, anything you want to say to that, Selena?
No, I love what you dove into. Like, when I was listening to you, I was like, boundaries. I like that you didn't cave on those boundaries because you need to set a precedence with yourself. It's not even with them. It's, I need to get really clear on the boundaries that I have with the opportunities that I take on so that I am living in my truth and I'm not lying to myself. That's what I mean when it's like living in your truth. You're not lying to yourself. That would have been you lying to yourself if you were like, okay, yeah, I guess Montreal. It's like, no, that doesn't align with you. That's not the lifestyle you're after. You're not looking to move. You're happy with your life where you are. And also, you weren't willing to take the job right away because you were in Costa Rica. You weren't compromising that. So I like that you just put it back out there. You're like, these are my requirements. Let me know if it's going to work out. And then it comes back to you. Had you have said yes, your reality would have been completely different. And that's the narrative you would have told yourself. You would have told yourself that that's what you were worth. You would have told yourself a story that I am worth compromising on what's important to me. I am worth having to be away from my family, having to live in Montreal, having to be in a brand new city that I don't really want to be in. That you would have been dictating a completely different story about your worth to yourself, and that is the energy you would have showed up with going forward.
Exactly.
So that's why setting boundaries and, again, tuning into your heart, not in the mind. This is all full circle. It's like you tuned into your heart and you're like, I trust that if I give them my requirements, if I set my boundaries and I tell them this is what it is, this is what I want, and if not, let me know. You stood in that power.
And that's an attractive energy that makes people be like, oh, we actually, this person knows their value.
Yes.
Okay, this is something we actually we want to still work with.
Yeah.
Because then they realize, okay, this person is valuable because they know their value.
Yes.
And when you know your value, that's when everything else trickles to the away. You hold yourself at a new standard for your life. And that's what happened with like how I kind of navigated this job into what it is now. It's a complete freedom job for me because I literally, I like, it's a very corporate company.
Yes.
And I do not align with the corporate life, which I was completely living in for only like 7 months though. But at the end of my contract, I made a decision to myself. I didn't know what was next, but I knew I couldn't stay in this 9-to-5 job. I wasn't meant for it. It was a beautiful, intensive training for myself that I am so blessed I had this opportunity to experience what the corporate life was like. It was my first like real corporate job. And it was a dope job too. And it was amazing opportunities came from it, but the lifestyle was not for me. And I knew that. So I made the decision, okay, Ellie, you need to walk away from this job, but also still try to like propose a new way of being, propose a new structure of how you could approach this with the company because you are valuable and they do like you. And you like them as well, but you just don't like the 9-to-5 like structure. So I basically I had a meeting with my manager and I said, okay, so listen, these are the things, this is how it's gonna go. I said, I love working with you, but this is not for me. So why don't I get rid of all the things I don't like about the job? I get rid of the 9 to 5. I become more freelance. I do only the things, the creative things that I like to do, the video editing, the creative direction. And then I create my own schedule. Like, I only have to be in one meeting a week. And you still pay me the same amount. And she's like, well, you know, we can't afford to lose you. And I was like, nice. And the rest was history. And obviously the roles evolved a lot over the past year and a bit. That was over a year and a bit ago when I created that new role for myself where I was completely remote, really only working like not that much a month and still getting paid like a full-time salary essentially. And I really had to stand in my worth, know what I was worth and my value and what I brought to the table, and be okay with them saying no. Because if they said no, that would have been okay, and trust that what lied on the other side of that was still going to be okay, and I would figure it all out, and everything, the universe would support me regardless of what the answer of her was. And that's what I think is like so important, is trusting that fear of not knowing, the unknown. It's like not fearing it, but actually learning to embrace it. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, knowing that you're going to be supported because it comes down to trust in yourself, you know, trusting that you are going to have it all figured out because you're an amazing individual. You know, you have so much to bring. And the more you dig deeper within yourself and get to know yourself and what makes you authentic and unique and different, that's where you're going to recognize your value, you know? So that's the whole thing of what we're trying to tie it together.
And what I also wanted to point out from that is a couple of things. One, tying into purpose. Some people get really confused because they're like, my job is not my purpose. I'm not living my purpose in my job, you know? Or they're looking at jobs that they think are available or career paths that they think are available. And they're like, but this doesn't feel like my purpose. My response to that is you can create your dream situation. It might not start off that way.
Yes.
But when you start, first of all, you proved yourself in that job.
It's going to take hard work.
You showed what you didn't just waltz in there and get exactly what you wanted and change the role on day one. You're like, role's different.
I had mental breakdowns every day in the job.
And I completely relate.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, you can walk into a job. It might feel like, okay, yeah, this is like I don't feel like I'm completely living in my purpose, like 150%. It's like, okay, it's like in and around what I want to be doing. But once you establish those relationships, once you showcase what you can do there, and once you start stretching the role, and what I mean by that is tell your staff or tell your managers or your bosses, tell them what you can offer. You gotta show them what you gotta ask them, hey, I can do this. Let's start catering this role around my talents, because if you have a fantastic employer, they will want to leverage your natural gifts and talents because that is an asset for them. Yes. And they will find somebody else to replace the other parts because they'll be like, yeah, the other parts, though, that was just like mundane work anyways. I could just find somebody else. I could find like somebody else to like come in and do that. Like I can find somebody else for that. But what makes you you? They will rise that up. If they are a good quality employer, they will look at you and they will leverage those things and they will create opportunities. They'll be like, interesting, Ellie likes doing this. She also does this. We were thinking about doing something like that. Let's see if she wants to do that thing. They'll start creating brand new things that never even existed. So what I'm saying is when you look at the company or you look at the opportunity, you might look at it and say like, well, it's not like an 100% match, but there's always possibility for you to navigate, for you to change your role, for you to create your dream situation, and for you to suggest what else you can bring to that table.
Exactly.
Because they'll be like, this is amazing. Where else are we finding this? Yes, we want her to do that. We'll find somebody else to
Totally.
do the rest. And that's how you keep navigating through the role. And to your point, you found purpose in the role. So the role wasn't it wasn't like this role, check mark, I'm living my purpose 100%. It's like you brought in your purpose to the role. And I agree with myself as well that I've brought purposeful things into the role just by having the discussion. Guys, this is what I'm good at. This is what I like to do. This is what else I can offer. Can we do things like this?
Not being afraid to ask for what you want. Like that, like literally, so Selena and I were traveling. We haven't even told them about this yet, but Selena and I had the pleasure to travel together for quite some time earlier this year, and we both like watched each other grow in many different ways, and I'm someone who, I really have learned to really stand in and ask for what I want, because why be disappointed if in your, like, why like, life's too short to be disappointed. It's like, you're never gonna get what you want if you don't ask. Might as well try, see what you can do, and maybe they'll meet you halfway or something, you know? And that's something I watched you do time and time again with your company, and I'm so proud of you, because I don't have do they know the whole story about you?
No, but
this is a different episode.
This is a different episode. This is a different episode.
You'll all know about it, but it was just really amazing to see how
those similar principles that she went through, I also went through.
Yes.
And I was so privileged to have your influence around me while I was navigating difficult things with my job, where I was like, I don't know if this is for me, like, this is really intense, and like, then I had to build up the courage to have the conversations and be like, exactly what I said right here. This is what I like to do. This is what I can offer. This is where I'd like to take this role. And they were like, absolutely, let's do it. We want you to do that too. We agree. I'm like, you agree? Oh my God. And like, you just keep navigating, and then you bring in more things, and you just spiral upwards.
These companies are just waiting for creative people like you to just come in and create something new for them. Yeah. Because they're all like robots just navigating. Everyone's the same, da 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 da. And then you come in and you're like, wait a second, I think this can be done differently, and wait a second, this is what, and you just prove your worth by just like you implementing new things and trying to change it up a little bit.
And you just doing what's important to you.
Yeah.
Like I bring in things that are important to me. I'm like, hey, I don't know if we do this here, but this is something that I think is like important and I'd really like to see, and I have ideas to do it. They're like, that's great, because we don't really want to do that. We never thought about it. So if you want to take it, I'm like, yes, I feel so much joy and fulfillment in doing this thing, because I want to see this thing happen without giving away too much information. But and I've found purpose in my job, which is really great. Like, in relation to you, through the different stages of my job and the different roles that I've taken on, it's like I've slowly but surely, and I really had to trust and I really had to have patience, because there were times where I nearly jumped ship. And I was like, quit. Like, what am I doing week after week? Like, this is not changing. This is not getting better. And it's because I was in the head. And I was in the formula, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. How could it possibly change? Because X equals Y, and this is what it's going to be. This is it. And then that's when the miracle happens, and the you trusting the how, that the how is going to get figured out. In my mind, in my heart, I was very clear on what was going to serve me. I was like, my ideal situation would be this. And every single time I declared what my ideal situation from my heart would be, it ended up happening. I had to have patience. I had to have trust. I had to nearly be like, I'm jumping ship. But then on the other end of it, I was like, whoa, I did it again. And I did it again.
You can be so proud of yourself and celebrate yourself for that, you know? And that is a beautiful feeling. And that's such a feeling when you trust and you do something and you prove to yourself that you could really do it. Like, wow, what a beautiful feeling. And guess what, everyone? Let me tell you a little secret. The higher self, your higher self, doesn't make mistakes. Okay? So, you know that gut feeling, that inner calling, that intuition, that inner guidance that you feel that we doubt all the time? That's your higher self leading you, and it doesn't make mistakes. So just remember that. Like, your higher self has everything orchestrated for you already, but everything outside of ourselves constantly pull us away from that. So it's literally a journey of connecting back to yourself, because you know what's best for you. No one else does. You know what's going to be best for you. So the more you can cancel out that noise around you and really connect to your higher self, however you do that. For me, it's alone time. For others, it could be, I don't know.
For me, it's reflecting. Like, just alone time reflecting.
Yeah.
I can't be around other people's energies if I'm trying to tune inwards.
Totally.
And yeah, that's a really important place, because when you tap into that and when you trust yourself, then when good things happen or when bad things happen, you're like, this is all good. It's all good.
Exactly.
Like, the bad things, you're like, well, what am I learning from this, and what am I teaching? What is it teaching me? And the good things, you're like, well, what am I also learning from this?
Exactly.
It's like you just trust
everything happens for a reason.
Everything.
Everything
like, okay.
Everything is a lesson.
Yeah.
There's lessons in everything. Everything that is happening for you is for a reason. And I know, sometimes we're like, well, this was like the worst thing ever that happened, and oh my God. But it's like, even as hard as it is, like, we're meant to go through all of these things, and the universe will never throw something at you that you can't handle. So even if it's literally your worst nightmare is coming to life, like, it's happening so you can, like, literally heal this part of yourself.
So you can get to the next level.
So you can get to the next level of what you're meant to achieve.
You're leveling up. Because what's gotten you here is not what's going to get you to the next step. So there's something that you have not healed that's going to it's coming back, so that you can learn something massive from it. You can shift to the next level. And in you saying all of this and us diving into this, what I'm thinking about is, like, when people say everything in life is either a lesson or a blessing, I'm like, actually, it's both.
And also,
it's not one or the other. It's everything's a lesson and a blessing.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Whatever stage of your journey you're at right now, or wherever you are in your life right now, just take a step back and realize how far you've come. Just acknowledge and appreciate yourself for a moment and celebrate yourself.
That's what Soul Party is all about, the celebration.
Because we can be really hard on ourselves. I know I am so hard on myself, and I put so much pressure on myself to have things figured out. But really, like, you're doing a lot, and I'm like, just be so proud of yourself, and like, acknowledge how far you've actually come to this point in time, because your body and everything, your whole being will thank you for just acknowledging itself.
Yeah.
That's all it wants. It wants love and gratitude. It literally, your body responds to the feeling of gratitude and love for itself in all ways, the totality of you. So just remember that.
That's a beautiful way to end this episode. I love that. And I have a few quick questions for you. Quick fire, rapido.
Rapid fire.
Okay, so we talked a lot about purpose. We talked a lot about when your soul is having a party. What would you say currently, top of mind, what would you say your soul party anthem is?
That's too hard.
What gets you in the zone? What's a song that makes you feel yourself? Like, you're like, I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone. I'm celebrating. Like, this is the song.
There's a song called...
Play it.
Okay?
And you could also tell us what it's called.
I mean, there are so
But the first one
many.
that comes to mind.
The one that comes to mind
Yeah,
is
right when I
this
asked that question.
song called More Love.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one. It's
More Love by?
More Love by Noizu.
Okay, give it to us. I could picture you dancing in your mirror to this. Yeah, definitely.
Bada boom ba. Hey, hey. Things all around. The world needs more love.
Oh, I love that. The world needs more love.
Right? The world needs
Of
more
course,
love.
this is your song.
Ba ba da boom ba ba da ba ba da ba ba boom ba da ba ba boom.
Okay. All right.
That was it. More
Next
love.
question is,
The world needs more love, baby.
what is something that you think more people should celebrate, or something that deserves celebration? What do you think more? You know, people celebrate birthdays. They celebrate anniversaries, weddings. Like, they celebrate things. What do you think people should celebrate more of?
Genuinely, what I think more people should celebrate is literally the simple things in life. Okay? Walking outside your door, the sunshine. Whoa, the fresh air. Oh my God. The sun is kissing my face. This glorious
This is
blue
so you.
sky. Oh my God, this cup of coffee in the morning. Like the little things that just make you feel so present and like the priceless things that just make life so beautiful. Learning to find the beauty in it all, you know? Because we naturally as people, we want to find, and this can probably tie into my quote, but like learning to find the beauty in it all, it's like we think happiness and joy and like success is the bigger things, the when I'm this or when I'm doing that and this and that, like,
The milestones.
the
big
milestones, the things that you can show off and whatever. Once I have the house, once I have the this. But really, you have so much already. It's being grateful in the little things that we have. Waking up, you have a cozy bed. Oh my God. Wow. Like you have, depending who you're waking up next to, like, wow, I have a person I love waking up next to. Or if you like sleeping alone like me, like, oh my God, the bed is like,
stretch
my body out and do a starfish on the bed. Like
starfish
literally
is the optimal position.
bringing it back down where you're so grateful for the little things, because that's what's gonna bring you so much joy in your everyday life and overall make you so much happier. And that stuff's free. We have access to all of those things. Just stepping outside, nature, like appreciating a beautiful day or a smile that a stranger gives you, like little things, like little interactions. Just feeling so grateful for all that you do have, because you have a lot. You might not think you have it all, but you actually have so much. It's all within you. And when you approach life with that abundant energy, people are like, what is this girl on? And that's where you become magnetic to literally attracting everything you want, because you're already vibrating in the frequency like you already have it all.
Boom.
Boom.
That's where we close it.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. She told ya.
You got it out of me.
I got it out of ya.
I just need to be prompted with the right thing.
That's it.
And there we
That's
go.
why I was describing what a celebration was.
Right.
Because I'm like, maybe that could help. If you think
Right.
about like people's traditional celebrations, it's like, well, what are we missing?
Right. Well,
What
we just did it.
What are they missing? It's that.
Well,
Ellie, thank you. This was a beautiful episode. I cannot wait for everybody to be touched by it. Like, this was just
Yeah.
so wonderful.
we got to do
And it's so nice
another
to have
one.
you back here behind the
Oh,
microphones.
it's so great to be here. Anyway,
Any whoosies.
it was great to chat with y'all.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Be before we go, I'll leave you with the question of the podcast. What makes you feel like your soul is having a party? Ask someone you know or someone new and watch their face light up. It's not often we ask each other about what makes us feel the most alive. And I bet you'll learn a heck of a lot more about that person than you would by just asking, "So how are you?" Share your soul party moments and soul party anthem with me on Instagram at Celebrate Good Times. That's right. If you don't remember it, I will leave everything in the show notes below, all the ways to reach me and my guests. If you want to support this podcast, please hit subscribe, leave a rating and a review, and let me know what resonated with you in the comments and on socials. And don't forget to share it with others so we can change more conversations from, "So what did you do today?" to "What lights your soul on fire?" Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you groovy cats at the next soul party.